So wouldn't have expected to be halfway through the season almost for Ohio State and to have to talk about linebacker play, but it was a topic of conversation today. It was a topic of conversation for Steel Chambers himself coming out of the Notre Dame game. He was very self-critical, and there were definitely still some moments against Maryland where it looked like him and Tommy Eichenberg were not on the same page quite yet. Jim Knowles today, though, still pretty complimentary about how the linebackers were playing, with one exception, or not an exception necessarily, but Stephen, you tried to ask. He was asked about, not by you, about the about why C.J. Hicks isn't playing more, because I think people obviously a lot of times, maybe veterans aren't playing enough, let's throw a young guy in there, and he very quickly cut you off or in a different answer to go to, hey, don't forget about Cody Simon. So maybe that's where we should take this. Like, how much should Cody Simon be playing in this defense right now, considering how established and how well Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg have played, at least up until the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so just to take you into how this worked, a little inside baseball here. He got asked about CJ. He gave an answer, and I'm like, just to clarify here, it's not that CJ Hicks is not doing what he's supposed to do. It's just the other two guys. I said Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers. This is about them and not about something that CJ Hicks isn't doing. He said yes. And then he interrupted me and said, Cody Simon, don't forget about Cody Simon, which was going to be about the next point I was going to make, is that Cody Simon has played a decent number of snaps that are less than what those two starters have played, but he's made some important plays the last 2 weeks. And as I'm asking this question, Jim Knowles doesn't show a lot of emotion. He's kind of funny. He's a little witty up there, but he doesn't show a lot of emotion, but his face is like kind of frustrated that he's not playing Cody Simon more. And he said that after the first game too. Like, I got to find a way to get Cody Simon out there. I think Cody's been their best linebacker through 5 games. I don't know if Jim Knowles would say that, but he likes what he's getting from Cody Simon. And I asked, has he earned more? And he said yes. So that's something I almost want to keep an eye on with the linebackers, is how much earlier does Cody Simon get in the game? And then when we go back and look at those snap counts, what's the difference? When last year it was Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers just play all the meaningful snaps. And if it's a game where they need a third linebacker, Cody Simon plays. They're not putting a third linebacker out there because you got Sonny Styles, who's Mr. Do-All everything. But can Cody Simon start to steal snaps from Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg? Because right now, those two, Tommy Eichenberg had a really good year last year. Steel Chambers did too. But they didn't get it done. They haven't gotten it done. Cody Simon is. And so does that mean we see more of him as we get into a Purdue game, as we get into the Penn State game and on down the line?
Andrew, I think you're someone who has a good perspective on this because you weren't here in 2021 when Cody Simon was the starting linebacker for this team, the starting Mike linebacker for this team. You know, Tommy Eichenberg started to start the year, and then Cody Simon took that job away from him and was this team's starting linebacker, middle linebacker for most of that season. Got hurt at the end of the year. That opened the door for Tommy Eichenberg to have kind of this breakthrough that he's had and become a second-team All-American last year. Are you seeing enough in the flashes from Cody Simon to say that is someone who needs to be on the field more because it'll help this defense?
I think so. I understand where he's coming from because you're not taking Tommy off the field, right? You're not taking Tommy Eichenberg off the field. And if this was 2004, 2008, 2012, if you played a typical 4-3, this wouldn't be a conversation. This would be something that, hey, look, we're just going to throw these 3 linebackers out there and hooray for us, everybody's happy. But you kind of run out of numbers here and you run out of places to play him because you got your 4 down linemen. Think about your secondary. You got all the rotations back there. You got Proctor, you got Styles, you got Burke, you got Igbinosun. Like, okay, you got your secondary. This is a safety-driven defense, as we've discussed many times. And then you get to the linebackers, and it's the question to me is just, should Cody Simon be playing more or be playing over Steel Chambers? Or it's one guy really that you can kind of boil this down to and say, should you have him play more? I think he deserves to play more. I thought that the Notre Dame game was really enlightening for me. I thought he played really well in that game. And I think that it just made sense to play him in that game considering what Notre Dame was trying to do offensively. So I don't know if you're going to see it against Purdue. I think you could see it against Penn State because Penn State has those really good running backs and Penn State is going to try and run the ball a little bit. So I think that that's a game where you could really have Cody Simon flash and Cody Simon really kind of do some fun things. But against Purdue, I think he's earned a spot to play. I just have trouble mapping out a scenario where you're going to be able to play him as much as you want to play him.
I think there could be an interesting timeshare there, though, because Steel Chambers is a great coverage linebacker. I think he's got 4 career interceptions. He had the one against Stetson Bennett in Georgia in the playoff game last year. He already has one this season. He has a great knack for that. And could you just switch them? Could you just play Simon on early downs, play Chambers on later downs, or play Chambers in scenarios where you feel like it's more likely to be a pass? It's not like he is bad against the run. I think it's just about taking a spot, one of your 11 spots, and using however many guys it takes to maximize the performance of that spot. They're doing it at nickel safety, where Styles and Jordan Hancock will both play. Like, I could see them doing it at that linebacker spot too. But I think Andrew also brings up a good point in that there's going to be roles for Cody Simon coming up anyway. I don't know if they'll go 3 linebackers a lot against Penn State. I could see it more against Wisconsin. There's maybe some other matchups this season where they could put 3 linebackers on the field. Maybe Minnesota, depending on how they come out and approach things. So he's going to get that role because that's the role that he was in against Notre Dame when he kind of had a flash and made some big plays. So I am kind of on the lookout of whether – I'm thinking back to like when it was 2019, Tough Borland, Baron Browning kind of piggybacking on Tough Borland and being the guy that they wanted on the field for certain situations, kind of a timeshare. Maybe we could see that at linebacker. Something to watch and something we're going to talk about more on Buckeye Talk. Get it wherever you can find podcasts and get the text 614-350-3315.